Premier League preview show, game week 2 in the Premier League, of course, and it's Aston Villa taking on Arsenal in the headline fixture. We're also going to be looking at Brighton versus Manchester United and all the other fixtures. But guys, I've got more. I've got a special guest again, and this one is a guest that you've seen before. But before we introduce him and before I let you know who it is, let's get into the new intro. I hope you guys like the new starting soon stream thing. But yeah, let's get into the new intro. Let me know your thoughts. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Tereak Talks. Guys, I'm looking forward to this one. Second week of football, well, Premier League football returning. I have missed it and I've missed you guys here too. And I'm glad to be bringing you my special guest. You've seen him before if you're a long-time subscriber, but if you're brand new, he is a Manchester United fan, but one of the most reasonable ones you'll find out there. Level-headed, wise, beyond his years, also very special guest. That's what I've got to say. I could be waxing on lyrical forever. He's left me speechless. I've given him the big intro. Hopefully he lives up to it. There's my brother CM. Hey. It ain't Kathy, it's CM. How you doing, my bro?
Hey, bro, my head's getting bigger.
Hey, not this big though. Look, you see.
Hey, yeah, big up yourself, bro, man. Appreciate the intro. What else do we need to say, man? Big up the TTF. Thank you for the invite, as always. When was the last time?
It's a great question.
I was on the preview.
It was last season, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember last season, but I think it was
fixtures. The fixtures that we did. I could probably tell you then.
Well, I don't remember, man.
Guys, trying to think if you remember.
Yeah, but I feel like it might have been early in the season. But nah, man, it's always a good conversation coming on, speaking with my guy T. Big up to everybody inside the TTF as well, man. I always give you your flowers. I have to give you your flowers every time I come on because out of everybody in our little circle, in our little community, I think what you have built here with the community it's really unique, bro. Everybody, they communicate with each other, they care for each other, the conversations are genuine, they're real. So I have to give you your flowers, bro. Ed as well. Shout out to Ed and the entire TTF, man.
Aye, what a legend. Yo, he's giving you, not just me, people, he's giving you the kind words. So I do appreciate that. And the best way that you can thank him, guys, is by subscribing. I've just put his link into the pinned chat. And if you're watching here afterwards, guys, you can find it in the description down below. CM22ENT. Check him out on YouTube. He's also got other things on Twitch as well. He's working really hard over there, so trust me, guys, you need to get in, you need to get supporting. Paxton's a long-time subscriber for both of us, and he's not enjoying this love that we're sharing right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the glazing is crazy. So big up to yourself, Pax. Had to bring that comment off here first. But before we get chatting and everything and talking about the games this week, so yeah, I just want to ask you, bro, how's your week been?
Ooh, good week. Obviously, game week 1 of the Premier League. We just went through that. A lot of transfer window stuff we're going through, but in general, it's just been good. I've been working on the channel, trying to be more consistent. Been really kind of memorizing and working out ways of how I can create content. So that's been a good experience, I feel like, throughout this week, throughout the back end of the summer, just kind of finding different ways and methods of being productive. So that's been my journey.
I hear it, man. And that's what we want you to do, man. We want you to grow out here because you are a talented individual who speaks a lot of sense. And we need to get more people out here into this space, talking football with a level, calm head. Of course, you show your frustrations at times at things. That's what the game's about, emotion, but you're keeping it real, but also keeping it respectful and always trying to look beyond and deeper. And guys, that's enough, as I said, glazing, as Paxton would say, and compliments around here. I want to big up each and every one of you that's locked in here live right now. I really do appreciate you. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. But here's your shout outs. Big up to yourself, Casey. Guess who's back? tell a friend. Big up to yourself, Casey. Love to my brother Brush, our brother as always, saying hit that like button on the way in. Big up to yourself, Brush. It's Mr. You know who it is. It's Wilf in the building. I was about to say Creambone, but I never call him by that, even though that's what his handle is. Big up to you, my brother Wilf in here as well. Shay's in the building. Big up to yourself, Shay. Love to see you in here. Mama G is in here. Big up to yourself, Mama G. Realist in the building. He's saying, we want Cappy. What's your response to that?
Cappy ain't here, man. You want Cappy, go and watch the United Twins on the weekend, innit?
Hey, nice little plug there. I see it. Check it out, people. You know what you need to do. Say big up to the panel. Big up yourself, Realist. Love to see you. Bargav in here as well. Love that. Nice to see you, Bargav. Pax, you know, is love already to yourself, Pax. Big up to yourself, Furbs, my brother. Long time, my man. I'd love to see you in here. Blessings to yourself as well. Yannick here in the building. Love to see you in here, Yannick. We've got a lot of Man United fans, you know, on the channel. You know what I mean? But that just shows you the love that we've got. Arsenal, Man United. Who else have we got? It's just Arsenal, Man United at the moment. Just a bit like us right here. But yeah, nah, you know how it is. But we definitely have fans from all over the place. And this is what this show's for, people. It's about getting involved, chatting, and yeah, it's all about football, not just focusing on our clubs in a very biased way. We like to talk it in other ways, but yeah, see, he's telling you too short. That's what it is.
That's it, too short. You know, well, technically, I'm a little taller than Cappy, but I'm not gonna say too much.
Hey, you're the taller twin. Is that what it is?
Hey, yeah, but hear this, yeah. I'll the next time you want to invite me on the Premier League preview show, if this live gets 20 likes, 20 likes, Cappy will be here. I will leave it to him. My entire setup, computer, everything.
Cappy coming.
Get T to 20 likes.
20
and
likes.
The next time, Cappy will be here.
We're not too far from that, guys. Come on, you can do this. If you're watching afterwards, you're not too late. You can hit the 20 likes. I'm going to give you I'll give it a time limit. It's a good shout. End of the weekend. So let's say Monday. I'm going to check it Monday morning. I won't have a sore head, even though it's bank holiday over here. Trust me. I'm going to be going to the gym. I'm going to try and really hit back the gym on Monday. I'm holding myself accountable by letting you guys know that as well. So 20 likes by Monday. Can you please do that? If you can do it even sooner, boy.
Hey,
Happy.
If it's 20, we can go higher. We can go higher.
Set the bar higher. Hey, we'll keep it calm for now.
The aim will always be 20. But if we reach 20 before the end of the live or by Monday, we can go higher.
I hear it. Saying that you
know, always got 25, 30, 35, 40. You know how it goes.
Big up to yourself, Riyadh, in here as well. Nice to see you in here. Jamie Vardy, he's got the question. Jamie Vardy, we'll go into this before we get into the game because it's not the first game that we've got. Jamie Vardy or Welbeck for game week 2. I would go for. So Jamie Vardy's away at Fulham and Welbeck at at home against Man United. Brighton have got a better attack. Man United are a better team, but of course Vardy against a worse team, but away from home. I'll go for Welbeck. What about you? Quick one.
I'll go for Welbeck.
If you say Welbeck, it ain't looking good.
It isn't looking good. Now, Jamie Vardy, I'd love to see him back scoring goals in the Prem. Danny Welbeck looked really good last week against Everton, and he has those games in him every now and then. I would go for Welbeck. When we speak about the game later, I'll let you know why.
Good point. And Jamie Vardy might not last the 90 minutes as well, Riyadh, just to remember that. But let's get into it now. We're going to start off with the headline fixture. Aston Villa taking on Arsenal. Guys, this is the Saturday 5:30 kickoff here in the UK on TV. Big one, tantalizing fixture this is when you look at it. Unai Emery got the better of Mikel Arteta twice last year. Arsenal got 0 points. As you see, it's the team I support repping the kit right now. But it's a huge one. And it's a huge one in game week 2. I know it's not exactly a title decider, but it does set the pace in terms of what Arsenal can do. They'll have to respond to whatever Man City do in their game. And of course, we'll predict that as well. But CM, I'm going to start off with you. The first question I'll ask you is Arsenal the title, the contenders for the title, the ones who many people think will push Manchester City the closest this season. What did you make of their performance against Wolves last week? And then before we get into this one here, what did you make about that Arsenal start?
Well, I don't think it was one of the most convincing performances against Wolves. I think Wolves in the second half had a lot of bright moments. I think we could agree with that. A lot of people can agree with that. But ultimately, when I look at first games of the season, I'm looking at teams, especially in this current climate where you've got international competitions all over the place, guys coming back from holiday at different times. Pre-season, it feels like pre-season, at least for the last few years, has been all over the place. A lot of teams, especially at the highest level, guys that are going out and playing internationally or for whatever reason, haven't really been able to have their set teams in place, even at the latter stages of pre-season. And when you factor in signings and so forth, that could be the case. But overall, look, Arsenal did enough to win the game. And I think that's important. You set the tone, you get the season started correctly. Now, of course, there are things to work on. And if we've looked at the previous 2 seasons for Arsenal, from the very first season where you contended to last season where you hoped to kind of get over Manchester City, didn't quite do it, to this season, I think there are still small little areas Arsenal need to work on. We speak about the mental barriers and how you can grow in those areas, and the work that Mikel Arteta has done over the last few seasons since he's been there to kind of instill a different level of confidence and belief within the ranks of this team. And I think sometimes it just feels like for this Arsenal side, there are those small tests that they need to overcome. And you spoke about Aston Villa last season and how it was a crushing defeat, the one where Ollie Watkins scored that nice little chip. And, you know, that was one of those games that you look back at and said, boy, if we didn't lose this game, what would have been? So I think it's always a positive when a team like Arsenal in the position they're in overcomes those type of tests. And Wolves, for me, they're a really good team. They're a capable team. But the problem has always been their execution for me. So that was a game that Arsenal should have won. They had to win. And they overcame a bit of adversity along the way. So I wouldn't be too worried about the performance thus far. But as always, it's something to keep in the memory banks and work on as the season goes by now.
Absolutely. I think you've said that quite well in terms of the Arsenal game. Not far from their peak and prime best that we saw towards the end of last season in the Premier League, that 2024 run in the Premier League, apart from the Villa game that you mentioned, Arsenal were pretty much flawless, kept a clean sheet away at the Etihad. That was the only other game that we dropped points in. And if you'd have given me 4 points at Man City before the season started, I would have absolutely snapped your hand off for that. I think most people would going into the season. If you can challenge in, Liverpool fans would have done the same thing. But it'll prove decisive in losing that game against Aston Villa. And the common theme last year for Arsenal not picking up results was we'd lost the game against Fulham where we deserved to away from home in New Year's Eve, but that was an anomaly. The issue was not taking our chances. We created plenty of chances, home and away to Aston Villa, even earlier on in the season when we went through that poor run in December. That was one of the games where we still created enough. We had a few dodgy decisions that didn't go in our way. Of course, you need that luck in the Premier League. You're not going to get your decisions every way each week just because of the level of officiating. And just even if there was at the top level, that's just how the game goes. 50-50s might not fall in your favour. So I can't really spend too much time and energy on those at this moment in time. But Arsenal not taking those chances, creating plenty when you need to, take the game state, take control of that. Such a key element when we talk about football is what being in the lead, scoring the first goal is vital in these types of games because Aston Villa under Unai Emery are a well-coached side, well-versed, knowing what they're doing, whether they're coming up against a team that they're favoured to beat. A low block, they can break them down. They can find ways to score in many different ways. At set pieces was a big thing for them as well last season. Losing Douglas Luiz, they lose a little bit of that creativity. But you saw against West Ham last week, a lot of people are favouring West Ham to be one of the teams to enter the top 8 and probably break into the European spaces. Villa dominated that first half, kind of lost control of it in the second, but that's what we're talking about, CM. They had the game state, they had it level away from home, having the counter-attacking threats, being patient. They've got that ruthlessness. Ollie Watkins, you're not on your day. John Duran, you coming out of the cold in a way after the controversy that he had, and that was a mad story that the Premier League tends to throw up. You know it already, see, and it's going to be, it's one of those, and that's what the quality that Villa have, and they got the win in the end. They rode their luck, but that's what they can do. They don't fold, and that's what Unai Emery's really set. Arsenal, we know we are the better team. It's not massive. It's not a massive gap because Villa are very good and they have closed the gap in that sense. But Arsenal, we are going to be the team that's going to be looking upon us. Everyone here in the chat, whether you're Arsenal fan or not, you're looking at Arsenal and saying, okay, if you are going to win this league this season, Man City don't look like they're going to drop off. And if they do, it's not going to be by much. They'll still be in and around the 90-point range. You've got to go away from home, make a statement, win a game like this, even no matter what, if it's early in the season. And it's again, a lot of Arsenal fans throw the question, is it about performance or is it about the result? This point in the season, bro, it's about getting the result. You don't expect players, and let's probably caveat this for every other game that we speak about. You don't expect peak levels of performance at this point because peak players are building up their fitness, and especially after a tournament was summer where we've had the Copa America and Euros. What you expect is players to be coming around different times, different levels of fitness, find their form, a little bit of knocks, injuries, and those things as managers are trying to find their best 11. I think we're trying to find that at Arsenal still. And even though we haven't made many additions, that's a whole different topic in itself. But I'm confident in this game that we can go out and do it. So, CM, I'm going to ask you, how do you think this game is going to go? But before I do, so that's the question, but I'm going to give you some little bit of team news info out to help you with this. I know you do your research yourself. You're very well prepared, man, but to let everyone else know in the chat. So for Arsenal, they don't have any fresh injury concerns. But the news that broke probably about an hour and a half before we went live on here, Fabio Vieira won't be in the squad. Not like that makes a huge difference given the minutes that he did get anyway, but he's not going to be involved in the squad as he's moved to Porto. It looks imminent as Porto, they've got to sell Francisco Conceição first and then bring him in. So that looks like that could happen. Jurrien Timber is ready to start, but Arteta said in his press conference today that he's going to be carefully managed. Of course, as he picked up comeback from that long knee injury, but he could start. And that's been a big topic in and around the Arsenal fan base. Who do you start at left back against Leon Bailey? You know, our boy that. But yeah, is it a Ricardo Calafiori? Is it a Jurrien Timber? Do you continue with the Zinchenko, who has performed well, but we've seen in the past? But for Aston Villa, no injury concerns either as of yet. CM, that's what I've given you now. How do you think the game's going to go? And guys in the chat, let me know as well. And I've got a couple of questions in here that I'll answer.
For some reason, my head's telling me draw. For some reason, my head's telling me draw. So I'm going to say draw. I think two strong sides in their own right. Aston Villa coming off that West Ham victory. Game week 1. You're looking at the additions that they've had. Amadou Onana is already looking like he's going to be a good player for them in that midfield, and then retaining the players that they have in the squad that has, achieved Champions League football. I feel like it's going to be a competitive game. Arsenal are going to bring it as well. But yes, something just popped into my mind saying draw, so I'm going to stick with it.
Draw. Okay. Yeah, I hear that. It's probably a safe bet to go for, given how the strong two teams are, Aston Villa being at home. I hear it. Ferb says, and he asked the question, I feel like based on the last 2 seasons, Arsenal definitely should be the team to push City all the way once again. However, there is also the possibility of Arsenal facing a burnout. What you think, T? I agree. And there is that because it's the second season now. I know the last season was the real push to the final day, and Arsenal fans like myself felt proud about that. There was, of course, a sense of disappointment, but proud of the team pushing and knew weren't quite good enough, and Manchester City were better. Whereas the season before, we fell away, and it was quite an embarrassing type thing because we dropped points in games that we shouldn't have. Going 2-0 up at Anfield, yes, it's Anfield, shouldn't happen. 2-0 up at West Ham, drawing the game, can't happen. Not beating Southampton at all at home in a 3-3 game against bottom of the league, and they got relegated, and they were bottom of the league at that point and still got relegated bottom. Not good enough. And then, of course, getting slapped by Man City. Whereas this time and this season, I do think we are in an even better position than last year, and pushed them all the way. And I think what Arteta's trying to do, and Edu and everyone else at the club, is trying to add those little sprinkles of additions. Of course, Mikel Marino, bringing in from Real Sociedad, most likely won't be available for this game, hasn't had a preseason at all, but trying to add players that are at the level and also at the physicality. So if you're talking about mental burnout, I think the new additions bring you that, but also physical burnout. That the one area that I'm really keen on us sorting out, Ferbs, is that Saka. Not necessarily backup, because you never Saka's going to play so many games this season. Getting a backup for him is impossible. Look at Liverpool with Salah; they never really have a backup for that. Tottenham, when they had Harry Kane, same thing there. Those players that are at that perform at that level consistently, hard to really get a backup for them, because the person who comes in as a backup knows they're not going to get much minutes. But an alternative, that's what Arsenal need to look for. Someone that can play multiple positions, maybe on the left, maybe up top, and then also play out on the right, or maybe in the midfield and then can switch out to the right. That's what's going to be key. But other than that, Ferbs, I think we are primed and we're in a good position. One more addition, ideally. But if we don't, then we'll need a little bit of luck to go in our favour for that. How do you feel about my answer for that? Yeah, what was that, C?
Do you think that arguably bringing in a striker would unlock the versatility of the front line even more? Because when you look at Gabriel Jesus, not a natural goal scorer, more of a creative player. He can play. He's played out on the wing for Manchester City before. I'm sure he's played in that position for Arsenal from time to time as well.
Yeah.
I feel like almost if you bring in an out-and-out forward, you can play through the middle, then you have more variety with the likes of Martinelli, Trossard. Those guys can play on the left-hand side. Trossard can play through the middle sometimes. Then you've got Saka. You can put Jesus out there from time to time as well.
I agree. I do think you're right in that. My only issue is, and at this point in the window, and even at the very beginning, who's the player that we all know as the striker? It's very difficult right now in that striker market. You know, as a Man United fan yourself, you've brought in 2 new strikers that still have question marks over their head whether they're going to do it. And I know Xerxes had a good start, and Højlund had a very good season given the context surrounding it. That's the question. We're at a level now. We need someone who's going to give you, if we're going to bring in that type of striker, it's got to be guaranteed 20 goals, staying fit consistently. There is probably one name that a lot of people say, and Osimhen can give you that. But then you've got the injury concerns surrounding that. Arsenal, from what it sounds like, is they're also a bit cautious about his attitude, and we've seen him go off at, as an AFCON expert yourself as well. See,
agent as well.
Agent,
very vocal.
Exactly, very talk too much, and had a go at the Nigerian manager, doing a whole live, get ranting, saying all sorts. So Arsenal are a bit cautious surrounding that. And then apart from him, there's no one else that's really attainable. Isak, who Arsenal are very keen on, priced out by Newcastle. I can't even think any other names out there, but Haaland you're not going to get. And then the other top ones are probably past it a little bit over the hill, like your Lewandowski's. So it's very difficult in that way. So that's why I think realistically, CM, that's why I've gone with a winger. Although you're right, ideally, if there was one available, forward, because Jesus can play out on the wing and probably better out there from what we've seen in Manchester City and the Man City shirt. And when he's played for Arsenal against Man City, he played on the wing twice, both on the left in the second in the game at the Etihad, and on the right, because Saka was obviously missing in that one that we did win. So yeah, I do think that. And you went for a draw, and for me, and it's not just going from what my heart, I'm going through a pet form what my head's saying as well. I've gone for a 2-1 Arsenal win. 2-1 particularly because I think Aston Villa are strong going forward. They've got that physicality with Amadou Onana. They are a stronger team than the one that we faced at the Emirates because they missed Douglas Luiz in that one and they've replaced him with Onana. Yet losing that little bit of creativity and quality in terms of the passing there, but adding in that physicality. They've got new signings like Ian Matson there. I think another that 60 minutes that Ollie Watkins had was one of his first bits of minutes in Aston Villa shirts since the Euros. That would have done him some good just to get some minutes in the tank. And he has a good record against Arsenal. So I've gone with a Villa goal. But I think Arsenal are going to have learnt their lesson. Be ruthless, be clinical as soon as you get those opportunities. And I think that we will. Interesting to see who we start with. Guys, I'm not going to do an in-depth in terms of that. We've spoken about it long enough because this is a Premier League preview one. But yeah, Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 2. What was your score prediction? You said a draw. Which one have you gone for?
I was going to say, let me say 1-1.
1-1, yeah?
Yeah.
Again, you know, it's mad to say a 1-1 draw away from one of the top teams in the league. Back in our day when Arsenal and Man United were going at it, take it, move on. But because the level of the Premier League right now, fine margins, 90 points, 100 points, that feels like a loss. A draw is like a defeat.
Literally, that 1-1 draw, even though it's the second game of the season, you'll be looking back at game week 38 and saying, oh my goodness, if we had those extra 2 points, you don't know where we are. But at the same time, it's the luck that carries you sometimes too.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Paxton raising up Saka's Euros minutes, including the Euros last season. 3,100. Hey, great that is available, but again, Arsenal, you got to be looking at it from a long-term perspective. That's not healthy. And we saw him struggle in games. A lot of them by Munich away. Clearly can tell he wasn't fit, and it had a big impact on him. Yeah. Just before we move on, do you have any suggestions? Anyone that you think would be a good Saka replacement? Anyone that you may have seen and thought, you know what, not necessarily a replacement, but you know what I mean? Someone who can come in for minutes for Saka.
Man, I'm not too sure, you know, bro. I'm not
Shows
too
how
sure.
difficult it is, though, isn't it?
It's tough because you've got to get these signings right when you're at the level you're at. You just mentioned just the fine margins that there are at the top of the Premier League at this moment of time. I remember when you guys were in for Rafinha. Do you still rate him now? Yeah, because I still think he's a decent player. Obviously, Barcelona are quite a strange team because they're one of the top teams in La Liga, but at the same time, you don't know what Barcelona you can get. I remember watching their first game of the season. They actually fell behind and then came back to win the game after with 2 goals from Lewandowski. So, yeah, exactly. But it's interesting. It's interesting.
I would take him. He plays off the left as well, so he can get minutes out there. He's been doing that recently. It's been one of their good performers, but apparently what we're seeing is that he doesn't want to leave Barcelona. And who would when you're getting paid nice wages, good weather, and you love the club and you're South American, and the other South Americans want to play for Barcelona and Real Madrid, don't they? So, yeah. Let's go on into the next game now, guys. If you want a more in-depth view on that, check out my brother Man Like Will. I'll be on there later tonight about 10 o'clock. So yeah, that's why I can't be chatting too long. Can't be the 2-hour stream thing. I'm gonna try and keep it an hour, even though we're half an hour in. We've done one game. You know how it is. But basically, how I've kind of changed it this season, if you didn't catch it last week, we do 5 main games and then we do the last 5 as like a quick one and we just quick chat about that. So it should help. Yeah. But let's go on into the next game, guys. And it is, I've got my brother CM here. His team, Manchester United, the Red Devils, after a good start last week against Fulham with that 86th minute winner from Joshua Zirkzee, is travelling to Brighton and Hove Albion, who are top of the league on goal difference after an impressive win away at Everton last weekend with their youngest manager in the league, Fabian Hurtzler, taking them to a good result, and they have got an outstanding attack. But before we talk about Brighton, I want to ask my brother CM, how do you make of not just the start of the season, that last week's game against Fulham? I want to hear your thoughts on that, but just the whole new vibe around the club in general. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think overall it's really positive, T. When we're going into the summer, end of the season, the most important thing that I wanted to see was change within the hierarchy, just meaningful change of those positions that have affected the squad building aspect of the team, that the environmental changes and developments over all of these years since Sir Alex and David Gill left the club in 2013. And since then, we have seen notable names like Dan Ashworth, Christopher Vivell, so many guys coming into the club who have a wealth of experience, have worked in some for Manchester City, some elsewhere, and it's paying off. I feel like in terms of the decisions, the recruitment is paying off because we're a lot more shrewd when it comes to recruiting players, negotiating. We've been able to sell some of our young players. A lot of people don't like that. Some people do, give and take. But the way we're negotiating sales and purchases is a lot more shrewd in terms of the business, the players that we're looking at. I just feel like we have developed a different style of wanting to build a squad that's future proof. And you look at some of the younger guys we've brought in as well that are not exactly going to be involved in first team affairs right now, but maybe in the future, you can see that they want to build not just for today, for tomorrow. And I think that's the proper way to do it. Not to look at this Manchester United team and say we should be contending for the title, because clearly we're far away from that. And I feel like in the past, they've looked at bringing in star players and saying, all right, cool, that should elevate us towards contending for the title under guys like Mourinho, under guys like Louis van Gaal, even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So we're taking a different approach now, and this approach needs patience. Not all Manchester United fans are used to having patience because they want everything now, and that is fair enough in this day and age when attention spans, even me at times, you want something now, you want something quickly. But we have to accept, for us to do it properly, for it to be sustainable, then we need to allow it to take time, and for those changes to pay dividends over time and not just in the moment, but as the car keeps on driving down the road. So I'm happy with what's going on at Manchester United. The signings that we've brought in, the money, the way the money's been spent, it's promising. So now it's the beginning of the football journey, where it's over to Erik ten Hag, it's over to his coaching staff. We've got Ruud van Nistelrooy and Ake, a lot of different guys within that coaching setup now. So there should be changes within the ideologies of not just Erik ten Hag, but the coaching staff, when they all collaborate with each other, and hopefully that creates a better product on the pitch.
I think you're right in terms of what you're saying about the football structure. You're positive about that. You're quite happy in the direction you're going. But would you say that the questions are still remain unanswered? Well, of course, it's only the first game into the season and you're not going to have much change, but that's probably where there's most doubts at the moment, isn't there, CM, around Erik ten Hag? Where do you stand on that at the moment?
You know what? Going into the season, I was willing to see what Erik ten Hag was going to do. I feel like his first season was an overachievement. What we did in winning the Carabao Cup, reaching the FA Cup final, it was something that has happened to us in the past, where we take a massive step almost prematurely, and then when we take that step backwards now, everybody starts to panic. Everybody looks at the manager. And Erik ten Hag had a lot of faults that were exposed last season, as did Louis van Gaal, as did Jose Mourinho, as did Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And a lot of people forget that is when there are so many problems like there are at Manchester United, I think it's easy to look at the manager and all of the managerial weaknesses that he may possess and say he is the sole person to blame. And Erik ten Hag was to blame for many of our shortcomings last season, but at the same time, I also recognize that for many, many years now, Manchester United, in their hierarchy, like what we've spoken about, their ownership, the way we've spent money, it hasn't been productive for us in what we've wanted to see on the football pitch, of what previous managers have tried to create. And that's what hindsight has given me and other fans, being able to go into this Erik ten Hag situation and say, you know what, with everything we've seen over this past decade, we now need to act differently. And I feel like there are a lot of Manchester United fans who let themselves down, perhaps, because they forgot about all of that stuff the minute Manchester United continued to struggle last season. And I think we needed to understand that, especially with the process of the Ineos kind of investment and how long that took. There needed to be time, there needed to be patience to see, number one, what they would do given the time and the patience and when they could actually do something during the summer and what would happen next. And I feel like we're moving into that next period now where Erik ten Hag has to find a way to produce. I'm not saying you become one of the best teams in the league overnight, but in the way you play, the intentions on the football pitch, building consistency and positive habits.
Yeah.
Those are the things I'm looking at now. And that's where I'm kind of paying attention to what Erik ten Hag and his coaching staff do.
I think that's a fair answer as well. When you look at it with you're in a different position, obviously, state and as a club with so much transition going on. You're looking at performances over results right now. Of course, you've got to get some results on the pitch because you can't just perform well and just lose a lot of games because it's a results-based business at the end of the day. But performances are more important for you right now. Building that, okay, are we asserting our dominance on these games? Are we settling in these young players? Euro, when he comes back, when he returns, is he going to be able to settle in? Of course, he's going to have some teething problems, as you expect with a young defender. The likes of De Ligt, Mazraoui, are they going to improve how we defend and how we play in and out of possession? Of course, because that was a big problem for Man United last season, especially out of possession, because he wants to create you into that transition team, and it's just like too many times you go forward direct and leave a lot of spaces. And with Mazraoui, you've got someone who's better in possession, also quite good defensively, as we saw against Fulham. Is doing his due diligence there. But someone that's more comfortable to play forward, can drop into that midfield when needed, can feel comfortable in tight areas, build relationships with his winger, which he didn't quite get with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, although how much of a great defender he was when against upper top winger. Now you're going to see something that's going to be, you want to see a more cohesive unit. I think that's fair, and that's what the main target is for Man United. But in terms of this game, I'm going to give you some team news. Things I want to ask you. I'll give you the team news and I'll ask you who are you really looking to shine for Man United? And then I'll go into Brighton in terms of what they do. But the team news is Brighton's Evan Ferguson, Tereak Lamptey, and Pervis Estupiñán are back in training, but they will all be assessed ahead of the match. So you probably won't get all three of them. Definitely won't be starting. But yeah, they might be involved on the bench in terms of how many minutes. Jan Korba Minte, who had an outstanding game until he came off with that concussion substitution against Everton, is available. Speed, direct, pacey winger who's available. Could cause United threats. Is back for them. That's in terms of the injury news. But Fabian Herzler also says that the club record signing Jorginho Uruta, who was brought in from Leeds United for £40 million, has integrated into the group fast. But he didn't confirm whether he'd play in Saturday's match. I imagine he would at least be on the bench and might get some minutes if the time is right for it. But for Manchester United, Luke Shaw, Rasmus Højlund, Lenny Yoro, and Tyrone Malacia all remain on the sidelines, as well as Victor Lindelof, who's also unavailable to face Brighton because of a toe problem. But those are things that you knew before the Fulham game that they wouldn't be available. So there's no more injury news off the back of that. See, who are you really looking forward to seeing in this match, and who do you think can make a big impact for United?
Yeah, when I was kind of looking over the game, I was looking at that Brighton front line, the wide players in particular. Your Mintes and Mitomas, of course, who's been a standout guy in that Brighton team for quite a while. Simon Adingra, who came on and scored a really nice goal against Everton as well. I think this will be a game for us, especially where defenders shine. So when you look at guys like Lisandro Martinez, I'm not sure who's going to start alongside him. Last week it was Harry Maguire. He had a
Who would
solid
you start?
performance. Ooh, I would like to see Matthias Delic thrown in to see how he fares. It will be a difficult game, but I feel like he needs to be put into a scenario where he's tested. He could become one of the leaders of this team as well, with everything he's experienced in and around Europe. But Harry Maguire, I wouldn't be mad at that because he had a solid game against Fulham too. And then you look at the guys, Mashraoui, Dalot, those kind of fullbacks. It's going to be a difficult game for those guys, trying to contain whoever starts Mitoma on the left. And then if Minte starts again, following the brilliant game he had against Everton, I feel like it's going to be a game where the fullbacks are going to have to thrive on both ends, not just defensively, but in attacking positions also, like you said. So I'm looking out for that winger fullback matchup.
That's it. I hear it. Who are you starting out on those wings, see?
Ooh, oh man.
Are you continuing with Ahmad on the right, Rashford on the left?
Yeah.
Does Garnacho come in after 2 impressive performances off the bench now? Or do you even bring in someone like Anthony? Or I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I think Ahmad it deserves a run on that right hand side. He had a strong preseason. I liked his performance in the Community Shield, as Garnacho had a really good performance in the Community Shield, and I think now is the season where Ahmad deserves to get the chance. And I kind of said prior to the Fulham game too, Alejandro Garnacho doesn't just have to play on the right hand side. If Marcus Rashford is not in form and is not providing the team with exactly what you need, then you can also bring in Alejandro Garnacho on the left. And I know that when it comes to Anthony, it's a sticky one because in terms of his form, he had some big comments. I believe he had an interview in a Mirror or something along the lines where he said, listen, you will see my name in goals and assists and goals contributions this season. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does when he gets his opportunity. But for now, I probably keep it the same because Marcus Rashford's performance against Fulham, I don't think it warrants being dropped. It was a good, decent performance, I would say. And for him, I feel like it's always about growing into the situation. Now, if he continues to be rather mediocre in the terms of his performances, because one thing I've said about Marcus Rashford is he's been really timid in the way that he's played. When you look at that season where he scored 30 goals, he had a swagger about him. He had a confidence that is missing. It was missing last season. And early on in this campaign, you can still see it's not there as of yet. And that's when I would say, okay, Garnacho, come in, you play on the left, Ahmad play on the right, and then see if it can instill some sort of hunger in Marcus Rashford to say, I want to earn back my spot coming off the bench and see what he can do. Because you can see when you do light a fire in Marcus Rashford, he has moments last season like when he scores the goal against Manchester City, when he scores the goal against Wolves, even though they were kind of mixed in with a bit of misconduct. When there's a fire lit under him, he can perform. He can score you big goals. But right now, it's not there.
It's a great point on Rashford, and I totally agree. Moments player, that's what he is. When he's consistent in that moment or unplayable, you can't. No defender. He's every fullback's nightmare when he plays when he plays to that level. But now he's every fullback's dream because he knows he's not going to get anything in there. Just leave him going forward. Just before we get onto Brighton, really asked a good question here. Talking about Ruud Van Nistelrooy helping out defensively, and I asked him to elaborate on that because I wasn't sure if he meant offensively, obviously because he's being a striker and that's what he would know, but bringing in a new pressing regime, like a structure, and it helps out offensively as well. Do you think that he's had a big impact for you so far on that?
I think so. When you look at the way we press, we were a lot more compact together, less chaotic in the press, I would say, against Fulham. And that's the big improvement is pressing as a team from front to back. And that it alone can help with, compacting space in the midfield, not allowing teams to have so much space and ease to play through the lines into the central areas, those crucial areas of the pitch where some of the best passes or dribblers of the ball can affect games in an instant. So I think that's really important. And, another great thing that I was hearing about Ruud van Nistelrooy is the fact we were working on repetition in attacking scenarios too, because when you press, when you win back the ball after the press, it matters what you do with the ball afterwards and how quick you can go from defense to attack. And I've been saying for a while, the Manchester United front line lacks imagination of understanding and knowing what to do in scenarios, and almost painting a canvas in their heads before the opportunity arises. And if you continue to work on those spontaneous moments of repetition, surely they become better in executing in those counter-attacking scenarios where it's a 2v1 or a 3v2, those little
Yeah.
situations there.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of Brighton, guys, thank you for Red Devil Yannick for reminding me of this. They won't be available for this game, but it just goes to show you how Brighton are moving in the market. Matt O'Reilly from Celtic, who's coveted by plenty of Premier League clubs, is now on his way, on the verge of moving, and so is Ferdi Kadioglu, who is a player that me and CM will know about, not from just watching the Euros, but because our clubs were linked with him. Arsenal were linked with him heavily before we signed Calafiori, someone that we have had of interest, and I'm sure that we've scouted, and I'm sure that we rate highly because he's the type of player that can play in Arsenal's system. But as that inverted fullback and play on both sides, and Man United I've been looking for a left back, so I'm sure he was there, a player that they looked at. And Brighton are now signing him, and that's a good deal. And Brighton have made some good signings. When I talk about the danger men for Brighton, Moss has given quite a few in the chat right here. He's given a couple, and you can't go against him. In Hulu and Ciso, who we didn't see the best of him because he did come back from a serious knee injury last year, and you know how long that takes. I think it shows how difficult it is to come back from a knee injury. But before that, outstanding. Simon Adingra, who just seems to increase every time I watch him play. When I first watched him for Brighton, I thought, decent player. And then when me and CM and Roland were watching him in the AFCON final, wow, what an impact he made for Ivory Coast there for them. He was outstanding against Nigeria. And then from then, he's just kicked on, linked with big clubs again. Linked with Arsenal. Everyone is linked with us at the moment. But if you are linked with Arsenal, it shows that you have a certain quality in the end. So that's good. But my players that I've gone for, I've already mentioned Minter, so I'm not going to go for him. Someone I shouted out in my Premier League prediction show, who I think is going to have this, who's going to be the breakout year for him, and that is João Pedro. I think he's had a fantastic preseason, and what we saw from him last season was just a little bit of a taste of what's to come in the Premier League. Left foot, he can strike from outside the box. Inside the box, he can strike with his left foot as well, and he's not even left-footed; he's right-footed. He's also very good with in the air, 6 foot. Technical Brazilian player. I liken him to Jesus, but someone who's a bit of a taller frame, can play out wide also. I think what he has done under Fabian Hertz today is playing more in that, not a 10 per se, as in like, as an attacking midfielder, but more as a second striker. Off the forward, off of Danny Welbeck, connects the play really well. And I think he's a danger man. I've got him in my FPL team, so I've doubled down on him. I think he's going to be a real problem in between the lines. We've seen Casemiro look like he was getting closer to his best. What we saw in a Man United shirt in his first season against Fulham, lost a little bit of weight as well, as you can see. But I think what you mentioned, and you and Reedis with the pressing structure, that's helped, not having the gaps between the midfield. So it doesn't look like he's towing a caravan, because the point is that in his career, United are trying to add more physicality into that part of the pitch as well, in terms of legs, energy, and destroying in Ugarte or whoever else that might be. Man, but I think that's going to be, he's so intelligent, João Pedro. He's going to cause some issues there. Another player who I want to watch the game. I watched the extended highlights of the Everton one, Matt Vifa. He's the type of DM that that I don't know why Man United didn't look at him, or Liverpool, to be quite honest, because he worked under Arne Slot at Feyenoord. He's been on the periphery of the Dutch squad, but a tall, physical DM. He's 6'2", quite broad as well, but he's very rangy in terms of his big strides. He's very comfortable with the ball in possession. Likes to play in a possession-based system, and that's what Brighton like to do. Plays it forward, progressive passes. If you are interested into those stats, you have to kind of take it down a notch because he's doing it in the Eredivisie, which is not in the top 5 leagues, but he's in the 90th percentile in all of his passing statistics. He's a joke. And when you watch him, very calm, Dutch in his, Moss being a big Netherlands fan with his heritage there. But someone who's very confident with the ball at his feet, technical, sound, under the press. I think he's a big addition for them. They missed that last year, losing a Caicedo, but not just him, having McAllister. I think he's not at the level, of course, of either of them two. Can get to McAllister's level, if not beyond, but has a bit of a balance in that. So Max Vifa in that midfield, it's going to be interesting in that midfield battle, but also just in front of him, João Pedro. CM, how do you think this game's going to go?
Man, now we have lost 4 out of the last 5 in the Premier League against Brighton. They've been an extreme bogey team against us in recent times. So historically, right now at least, it doesn't look good. But I'm gonna say a Manchester United win. I'm gonna say 2-1 win, Manchester United. Going out on a limb here because everything else doesn't really support our chances against Brighton, especially at the Amex. So yeah. I'm hoping, but we did win our last game of the season against them, 2-0. Roberto De Zerbi. It was kind of an awkward ending to his era at Brighton at that time, and they looked really good against Everton. So it's going to be a difficult game.
Absolutely. 100%. Baleba, great DM as well. And that'll be a good balance of Baleba and Vifa. Left foot of Baleba, energy in there, good ball carrier, and then Vifa, someone who's like, a bit more calmer, passing, the passer in there. You got a good, nice little balance. Good shout there, really. So I forgot to mention him. Do you know what? I was first thinking, CM, of a 2-2. But I'm sorry to say this. I'm going for 2-1 Brighton. And my issue is, the reason why I haven't gone for a 2-2, they will give you chances. If you caught any of that Everton game, even if you just watch the shorter highlights of it, because they had massive chances to score. Everton, we know that's not their issue in creating chances. It's taking it. But Brighton will let up a bit of that. And I think because Fabian Hurtzlu's still new, they're going to still try and adapt to the way he's playing. Very front foot and aggressive in that way. Very German-like, you know what I mean, in terms of the press, the high line. But that will give Man United chances. And Man United, it's just about taking them. And what I saw against Fulham, Bruno Fernandes having those 2 big chances, you wouldn't... Again, the players on the pitch, that's the one you wanted it to fall to. That's your key man, your goal scorer of late. I'm not sure that you've quite got enough to take those chances. You will get them, but I think Brighton are lethal going forward, I know Paxton said, I think, I'm not getting carried away with this Brighton talk. People making it harder out to be. I think they're going to be a big, big problem for many teams this season. We've got them next. So I'm going to be watching this with a keen eye after it's the 12:30 kickoff. Are you doing a watch along for it whilst we've got people in here? Are you doing anything for it or nah?
Okay. Probably you'll catch me and Cappy for the United Twins
review.
Afterward. Yeah, I'll be there.
Perfect. So guys, another reason to check out CM. Listen to him react. He's giving you the good preview here. Now you want to see how he reacts to it. You'll see the emotion. And guys, talking about Cappy, let me see. Have you done it? Have you done it though? That's the question. 21 likes. Big up yourself. See, guys, next time you ain't seeing CM next time, I don't think. You're seeing Cappy.
I'm not
CM,
here.
You've been on the channel enough times now. You know what, CM? It's a pleasure having you on, but it was sick of seeing you now. And Cappy.
You want me to call him now?
Nah. Don't worry about that. Keep him locked away. But But big up to yourself, my brothers. But yeah, I'm sorry to say, I do feel like it's going to be a 2-1 Brighton just because of that, and I am very confident that Brighton will score goals. I'm not a criticism against your defense. I just think they're that good going forward. I could see Brighton scoring 2 against us at the Emirates.
Yeah.
That's how good I rate them. So yeah, big up to yourself, OTC, in here as well, bro. I think we should be a little bit more clinical for this game, but you never know. You never know. Now you got some minutes in your legs that you've seen that positivity against Fulham, so you'll see for that there. 7 a.m. for that game. Oh, are you doing a watch along release? Let us know, man. Let us know. Maybe just before the game you got. Here we go. We'll wait and see. Born Brighton, and Paxton's agreeing with you there, OTC. But now, as Paxton said earlier on about us waffling, that's how we do. We've spoken about our teams, yeah. Now, of course, it's not going to be an hour. It's going to be under an hour. It's going to be a little bit over that. But now we're moving on to the next teams. And I think that we have to talk about this team. We won't speak about them as long as Arsenal, Man United. But it's a big situation at Chelsea. What they play Wolverhampton Wanderers at the Molineux in a game where, we spoke about a West Midlands team earlier on doing the double over a London team in Aston Villa against Arsenal. Wolverhampton Wanderers did the double over Chelsea last season too. And it was a 2-1 win at the Molineux for Wolves. And then what was it, 4-1? Or was it 4-1 or 4-2? I can't quite remember, but I knew it was 4 goals. Mateus Cunha got a hat trick in that one. OTC, you'll have to remind me. I'm sure you don't want to, but he's come just in time about this.
Yeah,
Chelsea.
4-2.
It was 4-2 in the end. Wow. So, under this new manager, Endo Maresca, CM, what are your thoughts on the Raheem Sterling situation? OTC, I know you're probably sick of it, so we're not going to spend too long on it because this is all that you hear on social media. And I get it, he's a Chelsea fan. It would be a bit boring, but what I want to know your thoughts on the Raheem Sterling situation. Are you in favour of Raheem Sterling, or how Chelsea handling it?
Well, me personally, I don't like the way Chelsea are handling business, but at the same time, I feel like they backed themselves into a corner. The manager, especially, that they need to, because think about having 40 maybe plus players in a squad, and about half of those players have to be sectioned away from the first team that are being selected for training and match days. You've kind of got to deal with the situation firmly and now publicly. And I think in the case of Raheem Sterling, it's extremely ruthless because I think he had a good first season at Chelsea. Last season kind of tailed off under Pochettino. Romelu Lukaku to Napoli. That's one more guy gone. They're gonna have to get a few more sales on the way. But yeah, for Sterling, he kind of was out of favor towards the end of the season under Mauricio Pochettino, and now a new guy. Kind of gone through preseason, and he's evaluated that he's not the type of player that he lacks in his squad. So you kind of ask the question, well, if you come to that evaluation now, depending on when you come to that evaluation, why so late? Why do you not allow the player to control his destiny from early on and at least secure his future from a certain perspective? But I just feel like the way Chelsea have just been bringing in, selling players, dealing with specific players overall, I think it's classless from a club perspective, and that's what I've seen from this Clear Lake situation overall since they've come in. Just a lot of business that's been all over the place. They've been, even the Joao Felix transfer, right? He's a guy who gets brought in, and arguably that was a big up. It was a bad loan transfer in the first place with the money that they spent and everything that worked out afterwards, and then they spend money to bring him in on a permanent deal. It almost feels like the transfer business that Chelsea are doing is rushed, it's erratic, and that is affecting some of the guys that have been really good contributors, i.e. O'Connor Gallagher's, Chadabar, he's here or there, but he's a guy that's come up in that youth setup, Raheem Sterling. So now Chelsea have to dig themselves out of a pit. And that pit is getting deeper and deeper and deeper the more disgruntled players become, especially when they're out of the team and out of the squad in the long term.
Absolutely. Well said again, CM. It's true. And that's it. And that I probably don't really have much more to add on. I think you've said it perfectly. And I echoed my thoughts on that as well. They beat Servette in a 2-0 victory last night. I didn't watch the game in the Europa Conference League. So this game is on Sunday. It wasn't a good performance by the sounds of it. OTC, I've seen put a post on Twitter saying it was poor, very poor. Letting a lot of chances, 22 shots on goal. They let up against conference side opposition. The Servette, they're a Swiss team based out there and in Switzerland, of course, a Swiss team. But they're not one of the best teams in that league, and in that league's not really of a high level at all. And they're letting that amount of shots, and I'm seeing their goalkeeper, Chelsea, Philip Jorgensen, get man of the match. Just shows to me that there's still a lot of work Enzo Maresca needs to do. And my little bits of negativity around Chelsea, and when I talk to OTC, when a banter aside, is more to do with the environment that's surrounded there rather than the individual talent. They've got one of the best squads. They've probably got only worse than to Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. They should be finishing fourth with that squad, essentially. But we know football's more than about pen and paper, because Man United over the past few years have had probably the third or fourth best squad in the league, maybe even second at some points. But because they've not been able to build that cohesion and there's been so much mess around the club, you know how that has a massive impact into management, players, etc., and the culture. That's my only issue. In terms of this game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, you mentioned it earlier, see. They are a good team, well-coached side. Gary O'Neill signed that new deal just before the season kicked off of extra 4 years, has really built a camaraderie together in and around there. The cohesive side, they struggle. What their issue is right now is replacing Max Kilman, Pedro Neto, in terms of the leadership from Max Kilman and the attacking quality of Pedro Neto. They still attack well, as I saw last week, but not taking their chances, which has been a problem even when Pedro Neto's there. And they did switch off in some moments, but Arsenal were clinical in those moments, in all fairness, and quite ruthless. And that was thanks to Saka. Chelsea have that sort of quality. You got Palmer there, Nkunku, Pedro Neto up against his former side. You know how good he is, and from a creative standpoint.
He snatched Sterling's number as well.
Exactly. Took the shirt literally right off of his back. OTC, no. You wait until Ipswich come around, yeah, then you'll be like, oh, maybe Ipswich are better than some friend teams, but yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So I'm worried about that. I'm not worried as an Arsenal fan, but as looking at it from Chelsea outside in, that's got to be a bit of a concern for them as they got these teething issues, because Chelsea weren't bad against Man City. Let's not get it twisted. I thought Enzo had a horrid game. He had a stinker, but they were not actually bad against Man City. Romeo Lavia in the midfield, outstanding baller. What a player. Not just the technical ability, it's the confidence and personality showing in possession in that type of fixture against that level of quality. Man City, weren't at their best, but again, it's still a difficult game and you've got to still raise it. Lavia did so. Caicedo, okay. Enzo was awful. But the question is, not about creating chances again, nor is it for Chelsea. It's about taking them themselves. So, CM, how do you see this game going for in the Wolves and Chelsea one?
I think it will be a difficult one for both sides. I'm giving Chelsea the benefit of the doubt. Probably a narrow victory against Wolves. I know 1-0, 2-0 will be a tight game, I feel. But those differences that we speak about, perhaps Chelsea will come out on top because they have guys that will make the difference and be just that little more clinical than our Wolves counterparts on this side of the spectrum.
I'm hearing it. I think I'm going to agree with you there. I've gone for a 2-0 win for Chelsea just because of Wolves. I think Wolves will put up a good fight. Chelsea 2-0. Nah, change my mind. Sorry, I do change my mind. 2-1. Just because I'm worried about that Chelsea defense at the moment, letting up those chances. Premier League opposition. Cunha's fit and available. Forgot to add that. Sorry, guys. In terms of that, and João Felix could be available for this game here too, returning to the Chelsea side. Still teething problems, but again, I agree with you in saying they just might have a bit too much for this Wolves side. At the moment, Wolves might have a struggle to the beginning of the season. They've still got to wrap up some transfer business. They've still got some doubts around the futures of João Gomez. They might have to replace him with Andre, who's a Brazilian international as well. So it's a lot of questions at the moment under at Wolverhampton Wanderers. And yeah, I've gone for a 2-1, but a good game on Sunday. What have you gone for, guys, in the Chelsea versus Wolves one? Jan's gone for a 4-1. 2-1 Chelsea says, same as me. Moss says, sorry, Miss Jackson, score. Andre 3000, you know how it is. T, you should get a sub counter on. Good idea, Jan. We'll have a look into that. Guys, same for you. You got any suggestions for the channel? Let me know, because that's something that I'm going to clock now, and I'm going to give it a write down next as we move on to the next game. But big up to yourself, guys. Lol, they gave Sterling's number to Pedro Neto, and he won't be playing this game against Wolves. Proper Chelsea, yeah. Mad how they've got to go about this, Nick. Yeah, we spoke about that as well. It is crazy and he's ruthless. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. 4-1. Wow, that's still mad. I still see it. Cunha hat trick. And big up to yourself. I was about to say big up to yourself, CM. Is that Cappy logging into the account? That might be.
Maybe. He got word that he's going to be here the next time. So, you know.
Exactly. We'll probably get on to the other games in a bit more swifter fashion. There's not too much to talk about. Manchester City versus Ipswich at home at the Etihad. This seems like a foregone conclusion. But before we get into this game and give our predictions, I wanted to ask CM, what was you impressed with Man City last week against Chelsea? Was it something that you expected? The addition of Ilkay Gundogan, does that further solidify their chances of winning this league and get their grips on that? Or do you think, no, it doesn't really improve their chances? Or I don't know. You let me know your thoughts on City.
I think bringing back Gundogan is always a good thing for them, because he was a guy that excelled in the latter stages of the season. So having a guy that can score goals and contribute in that end come the business end of the season is a positive, bringing him back to the club. So the performance against Chelsea, I think there were some good moments. There were some moments where Chelsea looked really good and had opportunities to really hurt Manchester City. It was one of those ones, and Pepper's alluded to it. They're kind of working their way into this season, because there are some guys like Rodri who won't be involved from the very beginning because of all of the tournament football, like we were saying at the start. So Manchester City, as they do a lot of the time, they work their way into the season and reach their peak when it's most important to. So yeah. And I do want to shout out Ipswich. I think they gave a good account of themselves in that first half against Liverpool.
Yep.
One thing I will say is, for a lot of promoted sides, it's imperative that they maximize their strengths and they do their best to cover up their weaknesses as soon as possible. Because I feel like promoted sides, we almost fall in love with them because a lot of the audience hasn't seen them play on a regular basis. So when you see teams like Ipswich come up who want to play expansive, who want to entertain their home crowds or just the traveling fans, we look at them and we give them a lot of credit, maybe too much credit sometimes, where in the second half, their weaknesses defensively were exposed and they perhaps gassed out towards the end against Liverpool, and that's what allowed Arne Slot to get his victory. So I think for them, it's important that they work hard on maximizing what they're good at, which I think we saw in the counter-attack. They have a lot of strengths to work upon as the season goes by.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the thing with City. You've got to look at it. Well said on Ipswich there as well, bro. Like, it's going to be a big question on them. They've brought in some talent. Jack Clark coming in on that left-hand side. One of the best. They've gone in a strategy of just getting the best Championship players out there available. And I don't think that's a bad one, because if you do go down, you set yourself up for not straight back, but into a very strong position to come back up, signing the best players, getting them bought into the project, and then if you do come back up using those parachute payments, you can then become a solid Premier League team, which is what the likes of I mean, now Brentford didn't go back down, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
West Brom have done it for a long time. They steadied themselves, and that's again smaller club in the grand scheme of things. With a lot of clubs, you know, you got Leeds down there, Portsmouth, Premier League heritage. I know they're not a massive club, but you got massive clubs down there. Sunderland in the Championship, and it's hard to get out once you're in there. So trying to guilt build yourself as one of the top contenders when you do go back down can do something. So yeah, but Man City. Yeah, it's just Arsenal fans got really upset about it when Gundogan went, and I was one of them when he first got linked. But I kind of calmed myself down because as long as we have a bit of faith in terms of what we're doing, we should be fine in terms of that. If Man City win the league by 99 points and Arsenal get 96, 98, whatever, and then you could that's ridiculous, and they've just done something crazy. There's still a lot of uncertainty surrounded about their future in terms of the charges, so you don't know how that's going to have an impact. It's a long season. It is a long season indeed. Big up to yourself, Pax. But in terms of my prediction for this, if Man City win, of course, at home, I'm going to go for a 4-0 Man City win. CM, what's your prediction for this game here? How do you see it going? Any possible upset?
Nah, but I'm gonna say 3-1 Manchester City.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna be the thrashing that a lot of people think it's gonna be. Just with I don't know. It could be, but I'm gonna say Ipswich get a goal, and that will be their positive for the match. Apart from that, I feel like Manchester City are gonna look to be dominant.
I think if you said to us, an Ipswich fan, 3-1, would you take that result right now? I think they'd say yes.
Yes.
It's respectable. You've scored a goal at Man City. So you've scored your first Premier League goal, and it is at Man City. So it'd give you a bit of confidence. Okay, we can push on now and do this against the better sides. So yeah, 3-1's a decent result. The next game that we're going to go into, Liverpool, the team that beat Ipswich in at home. Arne Slot's first game against Thomas Frank's Brentford. Again, I'm going to go in terms of Liverpool. They're the main ones to kind of talk about here. Good start. Poor first half for me against Ipswich CM. They weren't great at all. Ipswich didn't create any chances, and the team that looked probably one of the most dangerous was Ipswich, in fact, in that moment. Konate comes on for Kwanzaa, who's now picked up a knock, what it seems like, and I wonder if that had a big impact on him in that game. We might never know, but they had a much better second half performance. Bringing in Konate, finding Trent, who was able to pick up those passes to Salah. Do you think that Liverpool, in terms of their ambitions this season, do you think they can potentially challenge being out a challenger for the title, or just competing, getting steady in the ship, remaining in that top four, building off of that platform as it is a brand new transition period for them, essentially?
Yeah, I think that's where they'll be kind of on the outside, looking in, trying to establish getting back into a Champions League spot and stabilizing where they are. There are a lot of players in that team, when I look at it, who haven't quite established themselves in Liverpool shirts. When you think about Cody Gakpo, Szoboszlai has had a strong preseason, good start to the season. I think he can kick on now. Alexis McAllister, I think, was good business for Liverpool. He's another guy that can potentially take a next step up for them and contribute for Liverpool. So I think they're going through a little transition with a new manager, a new coaching staff, a new way of playing. And I think it was Virgil van Dijk who kind of alluded to it in his post-match interview, where they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to buy into the changes that are happening as the weeks go by. But I think they will go on and have a good season as long as everything works out well.
Yeah, fair assessment. And then that is a good season for them as they're going through that adaptation, just being aware of it. Liverpool fans are. We saw a big meltdown on social after the Zubimendi thing, but I think they've kind of been quite relaxed about it afterwards, of course, and they kind of got belief in their team, and there's a big squad. It's one of the biggest squads in the league when we talk about, Chelsea, Liverpool. When I was talking to Liverpool fans, big up to South End, Sav G last week, who was on the channel, they've got ridiculous depth, as you said. The Gakpo's got to try and find that shirt. Jota, VV stays fit. It's going to be hard for Nunes, who didn't get any minutes last week. Just shows. And in the midfield, Endo, McAllister, Shabojla, as you mentioned earlier too, Gravenberch, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott. A lot of minutes to be gained there. Probably the weakest area in terms of depth is that centre-back. With only Virgil van Dijk on that left-hand side, and then they've got... But then again, you've still got the likes of Joe Gomez who could fill in a job there, but it depends on if he's going to be there by the end of the window. Kwanzaa, who had a real breakout year last year. Konate, of course. So, yeah, they've got some depth. And then at right back, of course, Bradley breaking through. So it's just about building that understanding of slot system. And against Brentford, it did impress last week in the end with a 2-1 victory against Crystal Palace, although under controversial circumstances. And Yannick in the building here just hits us with the news that, Ivan Toney could be going to Saudi. I thought he's going. I thought it was a here we go. But now, he's going. He wasn't involved last week as Brentford are trying to move on now, and Buemo taking on the keys, taking on that responsibility, which we saw him do last season until he got that injury. On Brentford, before we go into the predictions of this, how do you think they're going to fare this season? Is it going to be a relegation fight, or do you expect them to be comfortably in mid-table or even more?
Yeah, I think last season Brentford had a difficult campaign, injuries, just inconsistencies throughout. And I think they're a better team than that. I think they'll probably be in and around the mid-table, upper mid-table perhaps at their best. But when you look at the step-ups of like Brian Mbeumo, what Johan Visser can give to them, they've got a lot of decent players on that team. And I think for them, they'll be searching for that consistency and continuity of having guys available. I think having Ivan Toney leave late in the window isn't ideal because you wanna put that money to good use. I know they brought in a striker, Thiago.
Yeah.
I know a lot about him, but he's currently out injured. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what he could provide for this team if and when he returns. But I think for them, they'll be looking for that consistency and having players available.
Absolutely. And just as I go back to you, CM, about your predictions and thoughts on this game. But before I do that, live some team news. I mentioned Jarrell Quansah's a doubt after pick up an injury. He was in training earlier this week, so it wasn't to do with the game. As far as we're aware, again, it could still be linked, but yeah, he's in training. That's what Schlott said. Gomez is nearing a return as his minutes are being managed after being part of England's Euro 2024 squad. And of course, he's had an injury history before, so they're going to be quite cautious on that, especially if he's going to make a move. For Brentford, Ivan Toney will be available after missing the first game of the season last week amid transfer rumours. That's what Thomas Frank has said. He hopes he will be available. Sorry, keyword in hopes. So most likely won't be because when I saw will be available, I was shocked, but then I didn't read hopes. As CM mentioned, Igor Thiago is still sidelined with that meniscus injury, along with Josh Da Silva, Aaron Hickey, and Rico Henry. So they're two starting fullbacks who suffered big injuries last season. CM, how do you see this game going? Arne Slott's first game at Anfield up against a tough side in Brentford.
I'm going to say Liverpool.
The safe option.
Oh, Liverpool win 2-1. Like I've given a lot of 2-1s today, but yeah, I'm coming true with another one.
A 2-1 Liverpool win. I'm going to go for a 3-1. I'm going to go for a 3-1. No, of course, not Brentford. Liverpool win. Fabio Carvalho could be returning to play for this game against his old team. Previous team, I know, is a month, not even that, 2 weeks since he signed, and he could be facing his old club after a permanent deal there. But yeah, I think it will be a 3-1 Liverpool win. Brentford to sneak a goal again because they've got that pace and that trouble on the counter attack with Roland. I mean, Wissa up top and Buemo. Big up Roland if you're watching Pros Only Sports. But yeah, definitely, yeah, I think Liverpool are going to win this. Arne Slot, good atmosphere, and continue a winning, and their good home streak that we've seen at Anfield for the past 12 months or so. Mate, I think it's been 2 years since they lost Anfield in the league.
Oh,
Yeah,
they
so
have
actually,
a
I
mad
lie, may I
record.
tell? Hey,
Wait,
apologies, Crystal Palace
hold on,
fans.
hold on.
Crystal Palace fans are about to say so, but yeah, generally they've got good form in the league, apart from that Crystal Palace result. But yeah, we got 2-1 Brentford in here. Are you speaking with your heart there, Jan? Let me know. But big up to everyone. 2-2 draw. Oh, that's in the Bundesliga. In Borussia Mönchengladbach, I'm guessing against Leverkusen. But yeah, big up to everyone else in here as well. Whilst we're locked in, we are approaching the final games. We've done the big 5. Make sure you hit that like button. Listen to CM. He's telling you right now. Yeah, and Yannick's in the building. Let's get team up to 800k. Come on, guys,
run it up.
Yo, we've asked for 20 likes. Now we're getting to 800k. We're not getting carried away. Now I know what you mean, though. Get 800 subscribers, Jan. Please, yes, listen to him. We're trying to get on the road. CM's on the road to 800 too. I've already seen he's had an extra subscriber come from here. So big up to yourself over here if he's one of you that's watching or was watching earlier. And if you are watching now and you haven't done it, go subscribe to my brother CM. You want more United cookings over there? Well, content, not cookings. I'm sorry, content over there.
Sometimes we've been getting cooked. Sometimes it just be like that.
But before we wrap up, guys, we've got the final 5 fixtures. CM Tottenham versus Everton. Tottenham with not a great result up against Leicester in midweek. But how do you make this game going out?
Yeah, Dominic Solanke is going to be out until I believe after the international break. So that's their forward gone, ankle injury. They had a good, goal. Pedro Porro, always a welcome, contributor from that fullback position, scored and is going to be in the squad for this game. Everton, not ideal. Ashley Young gets sent off. Everything falls apart even further after that. And he seems to have some of those moments in him, Ashley Young, but I'm gonna say Spurs get their first win of the season. 1-0, maybe 1-0. I'll give Spurs that.
True. I hear why you're a bit pessimistic about it.
Yeah.
Spurs, although they attack well, create a lot of chances. You think Dominic Solanke, okay, I know he didn't score up against Leicester, but he's someone that will be able to put them chances away a lot more frequently than what we've seen from their attackers, apart from Son. Son's the only clinical one, but if you can't get him a chance, he won't score. And he doesn't seem to be performing as well out on the left. I think that's a big concern. So maybe the Solanke injury might be a good little way to get Spurs going back on a roll. Put him in centrally. Put Wilson Odobert, their new signing, out on the left, who I really rate. I think he's a top talent. Wilson Odobert, signed from Burnley, one of the shining lights in a poor season. But I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. Tarkowski could be out for Everton, so FPL fans, be aware of that. And as if you got Tarkowski, Pickford, or Mikalenko, they might be shipping goals, missing the key man, their leader at the back. So I've gone for a 2-0 Tottenham win, but I'm not. It could be more if Tottenham were firing, because I don't trust Everton at the moment. But maybe Sean Dyche has something rolled up his sleeves. CM's gone for a 1-0. I've gone for a 2-0 Tottenham win. Bournemouth, Newcastle. How do you see this one going, C?
Oh, Newcastle, they got themselves a decent result considering they were down to 10 men against Southampton. Yeah, it was a bit mad. Fabian Schär getting sent off, even though it was a scam of a headbutt. I'm not gonna lie, it was a scam of a headbutt. But
joke. After
yeah.
what you saw, did you see in the Arsenal game? What happened there?
Yeah,
square up, choking Havertz,
bro.
And doing, and I can't say, I can't describe what CM was doing then, but I'm just, I can't. What I was gonna say is I can't describe what Yerson Mosquera did to Jesus. Otherwise, we might get a community guideline strike over here. But it wasn't
fire for that.
But it was a fire for that moment. But yeah, how do you see it going, bro?
I'm gonna say, Bournemouth. They're a good side, man. I'm big on Semenyo. Big on the way they play overall, man. And they brought in Evan Nilsson. who, that's their Solanke replacement. I've heard a few things about him over time, so it's going to be interesting to see how he's integrated into the team as the season goes on. I'm going to say Bournemouth win.
Yeah.
2-1. Yeah. I feel like Bournemouth win 2-1. I'm going to go with probably the unpopular.
Is that the main reason because of Newcastle's lightness at the back line, do you think?
I think that's a reason. That is a reason, of course, but it's a difficult one because when you look at shout out to Bruno Guimaraes, the club captain, Alexander Isak, they've got some really good players on that team as well. And I think they're gonna want to kind of bounce back from the season they had last year too.
Yeah.
So but they do have those difficulties to overcome Newcastle. And I feel like we could see a favorable result for the home team.
I hear it, man. I hear it. I was edging towards a Newcastle one, but I think you've convinced me, like I've convinced me Newcastle not winning. I'm going to go for a high scoring 2-2 draw. 2-2 draw is what I've gone for. CM's gone for a 2-1. I've gone for a 2-2 draw. So 2-1 to Bournemouth. CM's gone. I've gone for a draw in this one. What about Crystal Palace, West Ham? Crystal Palace, good team, high expectations. I mean, a lot of plaudits. A lot of people's like, solid, at least 10th, maybe even can go higher. But they have lost Jordan Ayew now. He has gone to Leicester on a permanent deal. They've lost Joachim Andersen to Fulham on a permanent deal. His previous club, the one who came on loan first into the Premier League with. There's still rumours around Mark Gay could happen, although Palace fans seem quite confident that might not happen, but you never know in a transfer window. Some upheaval there. They're going to have to be bringing in some replacements for that. But how do you think, with all those things considered, how do you think they'll fare against West Ham?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting game. When you look at West Ham, they've done so much business. A lot of big shout out to Firms, isn't it?
When Firms gives you the eyes, it's a problem. You said something.
Hey, West Ham have done so much business. For Lopetegui, making a stark difference to who they were under David Moyes. I think we're going to see a lot of differences from this West Ham team as the season goes on. Crystal Palace, I think they've pulled off some nice business. When you think about the profit they've made off of Michael Olise, selling Joachim Andersen, they'll be looking to replace him in the coming days. And you're bringing in Dashi Kamada, he's made a Saar, guys that can really improve and bolster your attack. And we've seen that throughout preseason and the start. So I feel like West Ham is gonna have to go through that phase where they have those little growing pains that they have to overcome and fix. And it might be a tight affair where potentially it's a draw, potentially 1-1.
I hear it, man. They've got quality, but I don't think there's a massive difference in Lopetegui and David Moyes, which is probably what West Ham fans wouldn't want to hear. But so many new players coming in from different, not just in and around the Premier League, but from different leagues and things. It's going to take a while to adapt. I'm going to go for a Palace win, I'm going to go for a 2-1. I did think they were still the better side against Brentford in the first half in particular, not so much in the second. I'm going to go, it's Crystal Palace at home. Eze's still there. Gay will still play, I think, at least. But it might be his last game for Palace. Who knows?
Yeah,
but even if it is, CM, he strikes me a little bit like yourself, so matured, like doesn't really let things bother him too much. He's focused on his job, focused on his task. I need to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. No matter what.
Glasner said he's going to captain the side this weekend. So there you go. Is that an attempt to kind of butter up and say, listen, we need you this season. We already let go of one. Well, we need you to stay on. We're bringing in another guy to come alongside you, lead this team throughout this season and see what we can do.
Yeah, a lot of trust in him as well. I think is he the club captain already? I think he is. So. To continue to do so and say, no, you know what, we trust you and we need you, says a lot. So 2-1 Palace. I've gone for Yeah, 2-1 there. When was it a draw you went for? Did you go for a draw?
Yeah, 1-1. 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. Final 2 games. We got Fulham at home to Leicester. You saw Fulham firsthand up against your team. We all watched that game, of course, but you paying a close attention because it was Man United. How do you make them their chances up against Leicester, who also drew against the top side and Spurs?
I think Fulham themselves, they have a good team. I'm a fan of quite a few players, from Rodrigo Muniz, who had a little hot patch at a specific point of the season, Anthony Robinson, Adama Traore, who has had a difficult few years when you look at his spells at Wolves, to Barca, coming to Fulham. He looked a real danger on the right-hand side against Manchester United. If he can kind of refine that form, he's never really been the clinical type. No. He's been a guy that can, as a runner, as a guy on the ball with his pace, with his power, can kind of ruffle feathers in opposition defenses. If he can get back to that form, he can be a dangerous guy and a dangerous option. Of course, they bring in Sander Berg, who was a Manchester United link for a little while. So that's a guy, after losing João Palhinha, can come into their midfield and provide a bit of quality there. So I think Fulham have a decent side overall. And they had good moments against us. I just think that towards the end, it became slightly more frantic. Marco Silva spoke about it, where they went away from their game plan, and they need to trust it. They needed to trust it in that moment where eventually Joshua Zirkzee was able to toe poke the goal and get the winner. So I think Fulham will win this one against Leicester. I'm going to say 1-0 at Craven Cottage.
1-0 Craven Cottage. 2-0. I'm also agreeing with you. Fulham to win. ESR in my FPL team. ESR, old Arsenal boy. Come on, my man. You got to do it. Go grab yourself the first goal. I think he'll probably come off around the same minute, around the same time again, maybe a little bit further on, just because he hasn't played much football in the last 2 years. He's had 3 starts in the last 2 years. Wow. So it says a lot in terms of where he's at in terms of fitness, and maybe 3 years actually, because even the last part, even in 2022, in the 2021-22 season, he's coming off the bench a lot of that. So it's probably about 3 years. Probably had a couple more starts. I've gone for 2-0 Fulham. Good team, man, and added Sander Berg into there, a bit more solidity. Not like for like, but adds that physicality that they miss. With no more João Palhinha. Probably needed him for the game against Man United, and he would have really helped them there, especially towards the latter end. Add in a Joachim Andersen, very good in possession. Fulham can be quite direct at points, as you've seen. They like to play at the back, though. As you saw, liking to play at the back, you need someone who's comfortable in the ball at the feet. And if there is a press, when he goes long, he can really hit the target. So I think he can vastly improve them in possession, because that's where I think your chances came from, didn't it? In the first half, you pressing them and Fulham turning it over. And I tell you a mad stat as well, really. So you're like, you won't like to hear it, of course, but I know you like the stats as well. You're a secret stat man. But Fulham have turned the ball over the most out of any side in the Premier League last season. Turn over the most in the first phase, in the build-up phase of possession, might I add. Turned it over. So Man United are cooked on that, and Leicester, they could do the same, but I've gone for a 2-0 Fulham win. And because Anthony Robinson is in my FPL as well. Last game as well, guys, and just before we wrap up, Southampton at home to Nottingham Forest. What about you, CM? What's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think Southampton, I didn't catch a lot of that Newcastle game, so I can't tell you a lot of what happened. I do know, just kind of looking at a bit of the highlights and stats, that they had a lot of shots on goal against Newcastle, but ultimately they were able to carry on out through that goal from Joe Linton. Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, I feel like this season could be interesting for them, because over the last couple of campaigns, they've brought in kind of guys like Anthony Elanga, disgruntled guys that have been elsewhere, haven't quite been able to reach the heights of their potential, and now can come to play for a club who potentially have less pressure on being that, you know, in the upper echelons of the Premier League, but still have to fight. And when you instill that mentality of wanting to fight, wanting to stay as far from the bottom as possible, it does give you something mentally, physically, something of belief. And I think for Nottingham Forest, they'll want to prove themselves this season under Nuno Espirito Santo. So I think they'll get the win here. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 2-1 away from home.
Oh, 2-1 away from home. I wish Eddie Nketiah was playing for them in this game.
I'm hearing this close.
It is close, apparently. It should be done next week. Just sorting out some final details. Again, I don't mind the way that they're going with that attack. You know, that front three, especially if they've added Eddie Nketiah, they're going to have CHO in Callum Hudson-Odoi out on the left and Anthony Elanga. Players that work quite good enough at the top clubs in the Premier League, but they'll be more than good enough in, I think, we've seen out of Elanga and even Callum Hudson-Odoi last season. I think the same would go with Eddie. He hasn't scored many goals, but that's again in an Arsenal team, which we ask a lot more of our striker to do. And he's definitely an older fashioned number 9, box presence. He's not great. He's okay at linking up. Okay, not his strong suit. His strong suit, get the ball to me in a box. I'll finish it. I'll put it in the back of the net. Anywhere inside the 6-yard, proper old school. So I think that would help. But they won't have him for this game. They've got Taiwo Wanyi and Chris Wood, who scored last week as well. Southampton impressive. I'm going to go the opposite here. I'm going to say 2-1 Southampton. One of their wins, and I think that's quite big actually, and that would be a big loss for Forest. I'm going a bit brave there. 2-1 Southampton. Played well under Russell Martin. I just think if they are to stay up, they need to grab a win here. And it must-win games in game week 2 sound crazy, but for Southampton, there's not going to be many more opportunities to grab wins, is there? See,
it's true. It's true. Like throughout this stream, we've been speaking at top mid-table levels, relegation, the margins for error in the Premier League at this moment of time are really slim. And I said earlier about Ipswich, especially for those promoted teams, you need to maximize your strengths and find a way to minimize those weaknesses as much as you can. Otherwise, we fall in, you know, as fans or as people who haven't seen a lot of them coming up from the Championship, we fall in love with the effort, with the small moments of, you know, bright spurts that they show against teams at home, away, and then we kind of get blinded when they do make those mistakes and we drop those games. One of the teams that really comes to mind is Leeds United under Marcelo Bielsa. A team who a lot of people love their attacking prowess of being all out, wanting to go at teams in games, but defensively they just weren't at it. And, you know, their weaknesses came to show, and we see that with a lot of promoted sides. I think that's a big reason why we saw 3 up, 3 down, straight down last season.
And that was my prediction. See, I said the 3 relegated sides will go straight back down, unfortunately. And that would be the second time in Premier League history that would happen. And that would last season being the first. So it shows you, man, the margins at the bottom and the margins at the top, very fine between them. But guys, we have done and we have wrapped it up, the Premier League preview show. Massive appreciation out to my brother CM. If you're watching here afterwards and if you're watching here live right now, you know what you need to do. It's in the pin chat on the top of this if you're watching live. But if you're not, in the link in the description, check CM22ENT. Let them know what you've got coming up. I really appreciate you, my brother. What's coming up on the channel or Twitch as well. Let me know. I'll get the link in here.
Hey, big up yourself, bro. Thank you for the invite. Looking forward to the next time as well, Cappy. We'll be making an appearance. So, hey, that should be good. That should be good. But you can catch me, CM22ENT, on YouTube. I'll be doing United Twins, me and Cappy reacting to Manchester United games, Manchester United news, on short form content, long form content. That's really what we've been working on Twitter. and TikTok especially too. On Twitch, I haven't been as active. I want to find new games that I can get into every now and then and just have a nice relaxed vibe over there in comparison to speaking about Man United every week or every few days, which can be stressful from time to time. So big up to all the TTF, man. Thank you for T once again for inviting me on. It's been a blast. We could have probably gone 3 hours speaking football. So
Exactly.
hey,
United, guys. Really appreciate you for tuning in once again. And thank you to CM. Go check him out. You know how to do it, people. We're going to be out of here. Next time you will see him on the channel, it won't actually, lie me, I tell, it won't be CM. It will be Cappy. So thank you to those people who like the video. Don't think you can rest on your laurels, guys. CM, tell him. You tell him. I want you.
listen, yeah. We had the 20 likes target, but you don't stop now. There's gonna be people that are watching it to the very end here. There's gonna be people watching this live once it's not live again, once it's a VOD. So if you're watching this video, you're at the start. First and foremost, make sure you're watching until the very end. Even if you're not watching, you're doing something, listen to it. And I know some of you got the bootleg YouTube where you can lock your phone screen and listen to the thing. So make sure
YouTube Premium.
or YouTube Premium. You know what I mean? I got a slide in here allegedly for that one. But look, big up to everybody, the TTF. Make sure you're hitting that like button, man. Showing T support, road to 800, road to road K, whatever you want to put it, man. The growth keeps on going in it, and it's a long football season ahead. So make sure you're supporting my guy, showing some love, commenting even after this live has gone down, because those are the things that push the viewership, push the promotions of these smaller channels all together as a community. So make sure you're supporting the thing, man.
Exactly. And that reminded me, the last thing I would say, thank you, CM. That was perfect. I wanted to wrap it up there, but I forgot there was one more thing I need to mention. Predictions. If you want to join my Super Brew Predictor, the link is also in the description. Check out the description. You don't have to read everything, but check out the links in there. None of them are dodgy, okay? So I'm safe over here. But guys, really appreciate you again. I'm going to give you the old intro as the outro for this one, so you can hear it one more time, people. Love to you all, and we're out. Peace.